Yes. First, I'd like to thank all the residents that came out to talk about the flooding issues. Many are neighbors of mine, friends of mine, and everybody who came out, I appreciate it. I had a question, and I don't know if Ryan can answer this or not, and I understand about the finite capacity of the sewers. My understanding about the restrictors is the restrictors are to keep water on the road, therefore out of the basements. I'm correct in that, right? And then, so my specific question is, when the roads were redone in the last 10 years, did the sewers also get redone, and were any of the sewers put in a smaller capacity than what was there?
You know, I can't speak to each individual roadway project, but in general, the existing combined sewer system still exists. And you're correct. The point of the restrictors is to keep the water on the road versus feeding the sewers. It's not a problem until it reaches the point of, if the level of water on the roadway were to rise to a level in which it would actually impact the house, and then it does become a problem.
And I understand that. I mean, I didn't hear from the residents that were here tonight that issue as much as the issue of it's flooding in front of their house, which perhaps the restrictor is supposed to do, and then secondly, it's coming into the basement. But I guess you had mentioned about the deep tunnel maybe would have capacity, but some of the local sewer lines may not. And I just heard a lot of people saying this, at least to them, appears to be a rather new phenomenon or something that's happening since the road got put in. And generally speaking, would the village engineer or any of the engineers ever design a sewer that had less capacity than what they were replacing?
Yeah, and I don't know, I can't speak specifically to any condition on any one street, but it's definitely something we'll look into, because I heard the same general theme that you did about problems after the streets were redone.
Trustee Kugler, with respect to your previous questions, the road work that was done was primarily road work. It was either reconstruction, rehabilitation, or resurfacing. Sewer work was a very modest component of that, and it was simply sewer repairs as needed or appropriate. And that was really almost dedicated to replacing catch basin inlets and the like. So it really didn't have an impact on the sewer system one way or the other. In fact, if anything, I can assure you that the system was not reduced in terms of capacity or number of inlets that were out in the field and the like.
Okay. And then lastly, as far as scheduling this follow-up meeting, I understand it's going to take work on staff's part, but my suggestion would be that we pick a date where, whether it be a month out or 4 months out, a date be set before the next meeting. At the next meeting, we can talk about a date being set. And then if it is 4 months out, we can say each meeting or something like that. But it seems that we should be able to figure out when we can have that meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Cooper. Others? Trustee Wayne.
I'm going to pony on to what Mark said there and suggest that we pick a date as quickly as possible so that we can at least put the date out there as part of our response, and that we are moving forward from that date. As someone that lives over in the 600 block of South Wyola and got to experience the canoe and other things I've never even imagined before. A question, Ryan, the Maple Avenue sewer that's been improved, right? Do we have an indication that that section of town served by that did a lot better than sections that haven't been improved, and therefore the dollars that we're spending are in evidence?
Unfortunately, the additional capacity by the Maple Avenue sewer that was installed from roughly Costin and East and then goes south and then under the tracks has not yet been connected to the Bluff Avenue Stage 3 portion of the project that will take that whole drainage area. It's been stubbed out to Maple Avenue and Bluff, but not yet connected because the third phase of that project has not yet been built.
Gotcha. So we we're close to getting approved, but we're not yet.
And then future segments are planned to extend further west.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you, Madam President.
Trustee Burke?
Thank you, Madam President. I echo the comments of my fellow trustees and thank all the folks that were here earlier that came and gave us the explanations of what happened. And then I think the two comments that jumped off for me that I haven't heard before was the apparent lot of water that was pushing off the country club. So I took a note of that. I don't know if you caught that, but clearly that's something we need to investigate to see if there's a lot of water infiltrating the neighborhoods on the surface that would exacerbate a problem that may not have existed before. And so I just wanted to point that out. And the second thing I thought that might be valuable is to try to put out maybe a written FAQ or explanation of kind of things that people can do to remedy the situation, the overhead sewer, and what that means. And I think the people that I've talked to over the weekend didn't even really know, some of them didn't know what it was, and I was explaining to them what it is. So maybe FAQ type of things on our website that just explain what it is that you can do to help sewer. There's two aspects here. One is the surface water infiltration into someone's foundation, and there's the sewer backup that pushes into your basement from the sewer's overflow. Two separate problems. We heard the one woman explain that her she had a sump pump installed, but that only really catches the surface water that collects around the foundation where the sewer backs up directly. There's no impact. So I think there are some educational things that hopefully we could put out that could help people in the interim while we work on these sort of things, because these are long-term solutions in many cases, and a lot of those things can be very helpful for people to keep water out of the basement. So a couple of recommendations.
Thank you. I think, as Bob said at the beginning, that is intended to be part of the public information meeting to present a series of helpful tips and explanations of what we can do with it. In addition to take that, to ask our folks at LT to take that and to run that as well on our website and on cable so that we can provide that to as many folks as possible. Anybody else?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. To piggyback on Trustee Borrat's comments as far as the Q&A is concerned, that the public can have a role in alleviating the street flooding as appropriate. I'd suggest that if anyone is inclined to volunteer their services when they see the streets flooding and to grab a rake or whatever, if the village send out a text like we can on so many other different topics to say if you've got street flooding in your neighborhood, help alleviate that by clearing the basins. I've had basins in my neighborhood clogged the last couple big rainstorms we had, and I had to walk half a block in order to keep my ankles dry. But the water dissipates very quickly, and to the extent that that's something we ought to do, by all means we should do it. But if the streets are going to store the water for us and keep it out of the system and keep it out of people's basements, then by all means tell us that we shouldn't clear those basins as well.